I'm here this afternoon in San Antonio with Dr. Mark Pfeiffer and his lovely, still bride,
Yes.
Susan, of 2 years. Mark, when we first met you, you had your organization and teaching and doing a lot of things online, but together you and Susan have launched Reach, Teach, Love International. Okay, sounds wonderful. Tell me about it.
Susan, go ahead.
Isn't that a good husband?
Yes.
No, well, we have actually transitioned from a 100% training institute to really becoming a full service outreach to all the world. So Reach, Teach, Love specifically speaks to the ability to reach all people and to be able to train not just those people, refugees, orphans, those people seeking asylum, whether that's in the United States or outside. But it also speaks to the ability to watch that transition that happens. So you're helping them in acclimating here locally, but we also seek to look internationally and identify where there may be crisis or a very specific need that we go to reach. So we do that in a threefold way: through education, training, so that's still the core of what we do, and activation, which is that next step of once you go through a training, how do you take that knowledge and not just walk away and do nothing about it, but let us give you opportunities to take that information and activate it in the community, in the world. And so we put together projects and we work with local people here in San Antonio and in other cities around the nation where we'll go and train. We'll find out what the specifics are for that particular community and offer training specific to them, as well as outreach opportunities in their area. And then transformation is the third part. And the transformation happens through not just those people that we are working with and helping and loving on and teaching them how to become acclimated to the United States and helping them in their particular situations, but the transformation helps, and you see it so apparent in us, in the volunteers that we train to reach out cross-culturally, where there may have been a lot of fear before and apprehension.
So you're talking about refugees or immigrants who have come to the United States as their new home.
Yes.
Refugees, immigrants, asylum seekers, orphans, any community that's really struggling and in need, we try to reach out to them and care for them, meet them where they are, and help them overcome their challenges and become full, productive citizens, and not just that, but their spiritual needs,
Absolutely.
things that they need to become a whole person. So as Susan mentioned, we do most of our work here domestically and in San Antonio because we're based here, but we've also done a lot of work with Syrian refugees who've escaped the civil war in Syria, who have been uprooted and moved to other countries and live in tent camps. Our hearts were broken for 1.2 million people living in tent camps in Jordan.
Wow.
And it's, you say, okay, 1.2 million people and the UN will take care of them and international organizations will take care of them, and it's just not the case. There is some aid initially for those people, and after a short period of time, then they're on their own, if you can imagine.
Were there some that were brought here to San Antonio?
There are some Syrians here, not that many. We have more of a diverse background of people from all different places in the world. We work in one apartment complex locally, and there are about 15 different people groups and language groups in that one apartment complex. And people sometimes will complain about these foreigners who come here and they don't assimilate and they don't become American, and complain about that, and we're like, well, we help them to do that.
Yeah.
Because they want to do that.
Because the question is, what are you doing about that other than just complaining or sneering? And why would anyone really want to come here and then be treated poorly? The stories that we know we've heard, or spit upon and talked ugly to, why would anyone want to become a part of that? And also the expectation that someone can assimilate in a day or a year, and that doesn't happen. It's a generational. When you talk to anybody, even in San Antonio, we have a very high Hispanic population. Many beautiful people from Mexico, and their children are here. And the grandmothers and the great-grandmothers are speaking Spanish, but their children are speaking Spanish and English. And then sadly, their children are only speaking English, and so they're even losing some of their heritage. It takes a generation for assimilation to truly happen, and we're working on that, on teaching ESL, English as a second language or English as a foreign language. Just trying to provide basic needs where we identify them. It's school season, school supplies came up, shoes in the winter. A lot of them come with just open-toe shoes, all kinds of different opportunities to pour into them.
And then a lot of the adults have never been to a dentist.
Wow.
And so we've provided dental clinics. About once a year, we provide free dental care where we have volunteer dentists, hygienists, assistants. We partner with a company out of Austin that provides all the equipment and the chairs and the x-rays and everything. And it's really to see people, even though their mouths may be hurting, they're so thankful because they've never had the opportunity to see a dentist before.
Right.
So those are the kind of things that we try to do here and wherever we are led around the world. And like I mentioned, the Syrian refugees in Jordan was one of those. And then we have another trip coming up to Iraq. There's a crisis that is not getting any attention. I mean, news is starting to trickle out about the orphan crisis in Iraq. And it's
devastating.
It's a devastating crisis, and there's so many children who were born to women who had been enslaved by ISIS fighters and used as sex slaves.
Oh my.
And these children, in an honor-shame culture like Iraq, these children are a shame. They're a source of shame on the woman. They're a source of shame on anyone who would take them in. And so they are out on the streets.
They're literally called demon spawn. And that just breaks my heart to think about an innocent, precious child who had no choice in how it came into this world being considered unworthy of any type of care. They're actually, they end up being what I call ghost children because they haven't even had their birth tracked.
Wow.
And in a country like Iraq, that's really difficult because if you don't have a birth certificate, or even, here it's terrible, but you don't have access to anything. You don't have access to health care or school. You could go to school, but you would never receive a certificate. You just lose all access to any type of resources.
And so in addition to these ISIS orphans,
What kind of quantitative number?
Well, the latest estimate that we got out of a New York Times article from just a couple days ago is in one city of Mosul, 13,000 of these orphans.
Oh my Lord.
In one city.
And that's in one city. That was the ISIS headquarters for their Islamic State, as it were. Mosul was their headquarters, and they occupied it for 3 years or 4 years.
The estimates for all of Iraq, the highest ones we've seen are 5 million. So you're talking 5 million children in a society where adoption is not allowed. So you cannot adopt them. Even guardianship, which is the only option, is only afforded to Iraqi citizens. You can't be a foreign national. You cannot be of any other religion other than Islam. And everyone in Iraq right now is suffering. It's not an atmosphere where you've got people who have an abundance to go ahead and give away. Thank God it's a culture where even though they have very little, they're willing to give anything that they have.
So are these children just on the streets? I mean, how are they even surviving with that kind of quantity of kids?
Well, that's a good question. There is an orphanage in Mosul with one of them has 65 beds. I think the other one has 30 beds.
Nothing.
It's
Nothing.
nothing.
Yeah.
And we're not just going blindly over there. We've identified a local organization that we can partner with, and it's through that organization that we will be buying the food locally. We will put it in packages and distribute it directly to the widows and to the orphans in Mosul. So we're fundraising as fast as we can to get as much money as we can, to buy as much food as we can, to take care of this immediate critical need. Of course, you can't keep relying on foreign people to come bring money to buy food, so our long-term goal is to either build or take one of the bombed out buildings and renovate it, because half of Mosul is in rubble. And there's still thousands of people missing and never accounted for that are under the rubble. So it's a massive humanitarian crisis.
It feels like we're just this tiny little drop in this huge ocean, but we can't do nothing. And you've got to start somewhere. And we really identified a beautiful local partner who's living there. And they will, anytime we go anywhere internationally, we always work with local partners who are there full time.
They know the area, they know what's
They know the people.
current, everything, yes.
We don't come in with our goals or our needs. A lot of times I've worked on trips where people come in and, oh, we want to do this for your area. And it's so important to understand the people in the area, what their needs are, and not to just give something and walk away. A lot of times helping can end up hurting more than not doing anything, because you've created dependency and you've taught people how to just take instead of be what they had always been, which was self-sufficient.
Yeah.
And if you work with them on something that gives them honor and respect, there's some land that our partner has already purchased for some sustainable crops, as well as we're talking about micro farming, goats and chickens to get some eggs and some milk, and let them have something to work on to help take care of themselves, because that's where we get dignity and that's where we get honor.
So I'm guessing that the orphans would be anything from age 0 to 17, 18 years old, that there's a wide range there. When they do become adults, you were saying they have no birth certificate, they don't have a right to do a lot of things in that country. How will they continue on? What in that society, what becomes of them even as an adult?
That's a really good question. There's not a clear answer that we know of right now, because without the ID card, you're not a citizen, and so you're not entitled to any care, all these kinds of things, medical care, no passport, all those kinds of things. So one of the things we hope to be able to do, and we plan on doing by God's grace, is to train these kids, give them an education, give them job training, so that they can become self-sufficient adults. As of right now, my wild guess is they would just do black market little bitty jobs for whatever little money they are able to scrounge.
They're all over the streets, cleaning windshields and selling gum or whatever they can find, and knocking on the windows
It's like a second class society.
Absolutely.
In the culture there.
So you have this culture of just begging, because there's nothing else they can do right now. So
that makes them easily prey to become,
sex
once again,
trafficking.
sex slaves or drug trafficking or anything.
It's just one bad situation breeds another bad situation.
Yes.
And if you look at the ocean of problems and you're like, I don't even know where to start, which is what we do often look at it, just you feel like you're drowning. And it's like, but you know what? God's called us to this. We will go. We will plant our feet. We'll work with the local partners, and there will be solutions, because there has to be.
Yeah.
So one of the things we'll do when we get back is, of course, report as widely as possible on the situation and how people can help. And we need lots of
And I'd love
partners.
to get that when y'all come back.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'll be back several
For now,
times.
you can always go to the website at reachteachlove.org and read more specifically about the orphan crisis on the blog. So you can click on the blog, and it talks about the mission in Iraq for the orphans. And if anybody wants to donate, you can click on the donate button, and you're welcome to pour into the opportunities to help these children.
Personally involved with this money, buying the food ourselves, boxing it up ourselves, and delivering it ourselves.
Working with that local partner.
So you know that this isn't just going to be given to some organization that you have no idea about.
Right.
Right.
It will be hands-on with us.
Yeah.
And we do need partners to help us in this work, because obviously we can't do it by ourselves.
Right.
And we can't, everything we do is based on donations, people who agree with the vision and the work and say, I may not be able to go with you, but I can help you go, and I can have a part in what you're doing.
And that's critical.
What a tremendous impact someone can have, or through y'all can have on that country, because we've been it ends with each other for over 20 years at this point. But if you can impact the children, that's tomorrow's people, the leaders, even if they aren't a citizen, they're
Right.
still part of that country. And could be a tremendous impact.
Yeah. to
Tremendous vision the Lord has given y'all.
Yes, and we're excited.
Yeah, we are counting the days. We're very excited, and when God gives you a clear vision and you follow it, there's no better way on earth to live than to live that way. And so
So many people are like, why are you going there? And isn't it dangerous? And I'm like, downtown
Yes.
Chicago is dangerous. I mean, there's lots of dangerous places, but if you're called to do something, it doesn't even always mean it's easy or everything will go smoothly. We pray that it will, but it's not the reason we're going. We're going because we were called to go, and because we can't not go.
yeah, that's the thing. You
Yeah.
just can't say I could do something about that, but I'm not going to.
Right.
Just can't live with ourselves.
So you've got two things. You've got your global outreach as well as working locally. So what kind of mix on time do you devote to both ends?
Right now, the way it's been going, we spend about 80% of our time locally, whether it's in San Antonio or we have other cities where we've gone and done trainings for like crew and things like that for people on college campuses. And so we give them just really education on how to deal with a multicultural world in the United States. How do you work with that? And what does that look like? And how do you share God's love that way? So that's about 80% of our time here in the States, and then about 20% internationally, where we'll go conferences where we're speaking, training at churches, community groups, where people are really interested. Their communities have become, they used to have one type of person, and now there's an influx and there's 10 different type of people. And what does that look like? Because I think a lot of times the first reaction is to go, whoa, what are you coming in and how is this I don't like change. Most people don't like change.
No.
And it can really be a beautiful opportunity in a multicultural world. With the internet, we're so connected now to understand how we can be accepting and how we can share God's love with everybody.
Any final thoughts that you'd like to share?
Well, we want to say thank you for giving us this opportunity, and I pray that each person who's watching this will seriously consider what they might be able to do. We know that there's people who can go, there's people who can give, there's people who can pray, and so just make sure wherever you fit, that you do that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was serious. When y'all do return, I would love to get that firsthand report of what you experienced there, what you saw, what you see as the need, so we can continue to keep that word out there on what's needed. So, well, it's been a pleasure catching back up with you. Excited about your new project, and reachteachlove.org.
Yes.
And they can donate there, correct?
Yes.
And get more information on upcoming things.
Absolutely.
And Reach Teach Love is all one word, no dashes, dots, spaces, or anything. reachteachlove.org.
It's a whole new world and word. All right. Well, thank y'all so much.
Thank you.